Hi everyone, today we're going to be solving AQA GCSE Biology Foundation Tier Paper 2F, June 2021. The theory of evolution states that organisms alive today. The theory of evolution states that organisms alive today evolved by natural selection from other species that are now extinct. Which two scientists proposed that the theory of evolution by natural selection? Guys, this is kind of a memorized information. Alright, Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace. These are the two person who talked about theory of evolution due to natural selection. Alexander Fleming is known for the discovery of penicillin. Carl Linnaeus is known for his classification of living organism. Carl Uzi is also known for his classification of living organism. However, there is a difference between Carl Linnaeus and Carl Uzi. Carl Uzi proposed the domain system, the three domains of life: archaea, eukarya, and prokarya, whereas Carl Linnaeus proposed the kingdom and the modern classification. Fossils provide evidence for evolution. Figure 1 shows a fossil footprint of a dinosaur. What is a fossil? Fossil is the remain of an organism from a long time ago, or we can say from thousands of millions of years ago. How was the fossil in figure 1 formed? So the first option given here is body parts were replaced by minerals. The animals walked on mud. The animal was frozen in ice. Since we see in this particular figure a footprint must be an animal walking on mud. When the fossil body parts are replaced by minerals, then we will see bones. When the animal was frozen in ice, almost full animal will be visible, since this animal does not get a chance to decompose. Dinosaurs are extinct. Give two causes of extinction. Now, this particular question, the causes of extinction, has a pretty common answer every time. We can talk about drought, ice age, global warming, volcanic activity, asteroid collision, new predator, new disease, competition for food, competition for meat, or not like the non-favorable habitat, lack of habitat. Guys, any one of the 2 points will be needed to get the 2 marks. Which two of the following provide evidence for evolution? Bacteria can become resistant to an antibiotic. Bacteria's developing resistance to a particular antibiotic is a form of evolution, since these bacteria will no longer be killed by that antibiotic anymore. Early forms of life lived in the ocean. This is not evolution because it does not refer to anything that is evolving. Older fossils are simpler than recent ones. This is a form of evolution because the new organisms are more complex, so that they have evolved. Older layer of rocks are closer to the surface. This one is not a form of evolution, can be easily understood. Many internal processes of human body are controlled by hormones. Hormones are produced by glands. Figure 2 shows glands in a woman's body. We can see A, pituitary gland, located at the located at the back of the skull. Then B, we can see thyroid. C is located on top of kidney, so must be adrenal gland, and D is the pancreas. The question says which gland is a pituitary gland, so definitely the answer will be A. Which gland is the pancreas? In this case, the D will be the answer definitely. The hormone insulin helps to decrease the blood glucose concentration. Insulin causes its target organ to take in glucose from the blood. Which of the following is a target organ for insulin? Now, insulin is a hormone that is released by pancreas, and the main site for its action is either the liver or muscles. In this case, definitely it will be liver. The function of the heart would be to pump blood around the body. So mainly it responds to adrenaline, and bladder stores urine. The glucose is stored as an insoluble substance. What is the insoluble storage substance that is formed from glucose? Now, in plants, glucose can produce starch. However, in animal and fungal cell, glucose is stored as glycogen. Protein is not the correct answer because it is made from amino acid, and urea is a product of deamination of amino acids. So we will call waste product. The scientists investigated the effect of a glucose drink on the concentration of glucose in a person's blood. This is the method that is used. Take a small sample of blood from the person, measure the concentration of glucose in the person's blood. Give a person a drink containing 50 grams of glucose. Measure the concentration of glucose in the person's blood at intervals. Calculate the change in blood glucose concentration from the starting value. Okay, so we can see change in blood glucose concentration in millimole per dm cube. Changes max of 2.6, and then dips below 0, that means it decreases less than the original value at 50 minutes. Figure 3 shows the change in blood glucose concentration. At the start of the investigation, the blood glucose concentration was 5 millimole per dm3. Calculate the highest blood glucose concentration during the investigation. So, at the start of the experiment, which we are considering to be 0, this was 5 millimole, mmole. Then we gained another 2.5, 2.6 from that particular point. So, it will be 5 plus 2.6, total 7.6 millimole per dm cube. So, highest blood glucose concentration, 7.6. What is the time taken for the blood glucose concentration to decrease from its highest value back to the starting value? So, from the graph, we can see at 20 minutes we had a peak. And at 50 minutes, it went to 0. The change went to 0. So, 20 minutes there was a peak. At 50 minutes, it went to 0. So, 50 minus 30. 50 minus 20 gives us 30 minutes. So it took 30 minutes for the blood glucose concentration to drop down to original value. Why can you not be certain that our answer to question number 2.6 is accurate? If we look into the particular graph, we can see that unlike 20 and 30 minutes, there was a reading that was taken every 10 minutes. Starting from 0 to 30 minutes. We do not see any reading that was taken at 40 minutes. Only the reading was taken at 50 minutes. So we can say the points are too far apart, or we could say there is no reading between 30 and 50. Figure 3 shows the result for a person who did not have type 2 diabetes. Sketch a line on figure 3 to show the result you would expect for a person who has type 2 diabetes. So a person with type 2 diabetes will have problem regulating their blood glucose concentration. So in these instances, the blood glucose concentration will rise far higher, approximately far higher than the person that doesn't have type 2 diabetes, and it will come back to 0 much later. This line does not need to be accurate. However, it has to be higher than the person that doesn't have type 2 diabetes, and it must return back to 0 later time. People eat fish caught in the North Sea. Figure 4 shows a food chain. So algae, which are the producers, and then small animals, which are the primary consumer. The small animals are then eaten by herring, which are the secondary consumer. And finally, the herring is eaten by human, and that makes human the tertiary consumer. Since no other animals eats human, so this makes us the apex predator. The algae make glucose by photosynthesis. Which two substances do algae need for photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process where carbon dioxide and water is combined together to produce a molecule of glucose, and as a result, byproduct of oxygen is released. So definitely, water and carbon dioxide will be needed. What is the source of energy for photosynthesis? Photosynthesis uses the word photo, which means light. That means this is a chemical reaction that takes place in the presence of light. So light. Mineral ions are needed by the plant. However, that is not the energy source. That is just a mineral source. And protein and water. Protein are made by the photosynthesis process, and water is needed for photosynthesis but not an energy source. It is the chemical reactant. Which pyramid of biomass is correct for the food chain shown in figure 4? Pyramid of biomass must always start with the biggest base, which stands, in this case we can say that this is for the algae, then followed by the primary consumer, then the secondary consumer, and finally the tertiary consumer, which was human in this case, the apex predator. So this will be the correct one. Figure 5 shows the biomass of adult herring in the North Sea between 1950s and 1990s. We can see there was a huge drop starting from 1950s up until 1978, where it almost reached the rock bottom. Then the population of herring again caught up to back in levels similar to that of 1960s. Too many herring were caught in 1960s. Calculate the percentage decrease in biomass of adult herring between 1960s and 1970s. So we're supposed to use this math. Let's see. Percentage decrease is equals to biomass in 1960 minus biomass in 1970 divided by biomass in 1960 times 100. So let's see the biomass in 1960. So in 1960, the biomass was 2.3 million tons. And in 1970s, the biomass was 0.5. 2.3 minus 0.5 divided by 2.3 times 100 gives us 78.2. From 1977, laws were introduced to help conserve herring. Describe the change in biomass of adult herring from 1977 to 1990s. Use your data from figure 5 in your answer. So we can see in 1977, the biomass was 0.1 million tons, which is very, very low in comparison to 1990s, where the biomass has increased to 1.8 million tons. So we can say the biomass increases from 0.1 million to 1.8 million tons, or we can describe, or we can show the calculation that the biomass increases by 1.7 million tons, or we can say that the change is 1700%. In order to score this particular mark, this first statement must always be there. One of the laws was to control the mesh size of the fishing net. Figure 6 shows a fishing net with a legal mesh size. 8-year-old herrings are caught in this way, and a 4-year-old herring can easily pass through the mesh without any problem. Herring can live up to 12 years. Herrings start to reproduce when they are 3 to 4 years old. Explain how the control of mesh size of fishing nets has helped to conserve stocks of herring. Since the 4-year-old herrings were not caught, so we can say the answer in this way. Since the smaller or the 4-year-old fish were not caught, they were able to escape and reproduce. The human eye can form images of objects that are at different distances away from the eye. Figure 7 is a diagram of the eye. We can see the ciliary muscle, we can see suspensory ligament, the sclera, and the retina is labeled. Now, A, B, C is left blank, so we'll have to label them. First of all, A is looking at the A is the cornea, whereas the B is the lens, and C is optic nerve. Another important labeling that may come in the exam may include fovea. And one more reminder, guys, ciliary muscle is a muscle which can contract and relax, whereas the antagonistic material for the ciliary muscle, which is the suspensory ligament, is not a muscle, so thereby do not contract. We cannot say for suspensory ligament any contraction or relaxation, so we can say slacken or tight. So we had to label from this particular wording that were already given, so it shouldn't be a big of a problem, because you can just simply see the word, get the spelling, and then just fill up in this particular diagram. The eye in figure 7 is focused on a distant object. If the eye then focus on the words on a book, changes would occur in the eye. The light rays would be refracted more by the lens. So one thing we need to understand is that in order to view an object that is closer, we have to have a fat lens, because the lens will then direct the light towards the fovea. Okay, so a fat lens is needed. In order to get a fat lens, the suspensory ligament must slacken. This must slacken, whereas the ciliary muscle in that case must contract. So suspensory ligament slacken, ciliary muscle must contract, so that will cause the lens to become fat, and it will then be able to focus on an object that is close. So how does the lens refract the light more? By becoming thicker. The lens is already transparent, and by becoming flatter or longer, the lens can focus the light from a distant object into the fovea. Which two structures control the shape of the lens? So the ciliary muscle along with the suspensory ligament, they are responsible for controlling the shape of the lens. To form a clear image, the light rays entering the eye must focus on one structure in the eye. Name the structure. Even though the correct answer for this one is fovea, however, retina is accepted as the main correct answer. So you can write both of them, alright? Any one of them, any one of them. An insect flies near a person's eye. The person blinks. This is a reflex action. Figure it shows the coordination system for the reflex action. The stimulus, which is the light from the insect. Now we have to talk about the receptor. In this case, the receptor will be rods and cone cells. So we can say rods / cones. Other accepted answers are fovea and also retina. The information is then passed to the coordinator, which in this case is the brain. The information is then passed from the coordinator to the effector, which in this case will be muscles, because the eyes need to blink. The response is the person blinks. Again, these words has to be chosen from this particular box, so it shouldn't be difficult of a choice for a student to be able to answer it. Potato blight is a disease of potato plants. Potato blight is caused by fungus Phytophthora infestans. What is the genus of the fungus that causes potato blight? When a name of a particular organism is given in a scientific pattern, it is called a binomial name. In this name, the first part is the name of the genus and the second part is the name of the species. So, Phytophthora, is the genus. Infestan is the name of the species, so not correct. And Phytophthora infestans is the name of the binomial name of the of the organism. The fungus grows near the surface of the potato. How does growing near the surface help the fungus to respire? Let's see the options. The fungus can get nitrogen from the soil. Respiration requires oxygen from the air. The fungus can get oxygen from the air. So this will be the correct option. The last option is the fungus can get water from the potato. The water may be needed for survival but not needed for respiration. A farmer sprays his potato plants with a pesticide. The pesticide kills the fungus that causes potato blight. Spraying the crop with the pesticide could decrease biodiversity in a river flowing through his farm. So pesticide will kill pest, or generally it can also kill many other organisms. Now, what happens is that a pesticide will easily get washed away into the river during rain, which will basically then kill the organisms in the river. The question says, what does biodiversity in a river mean? Let's see the options. The variety of species of animals in the river. Correct. A variety of species of animals, but it has to be all types of organism. All right, not only animals, must also include plants and other organisms, those that are living. So will be wrong. The variety of organism in the river. Yes, definitely this is correct because it includes all organism, all types of organism. The variety of species of plants in the river. So only plants or only animals will not be correct. The farmer sprayed pesticide on the potato plants. The next day, it rained heavily. Explain why the biodiversity in the river decreased. So we will say the pesticide got washed away, which then ended up in the river. The pesticide then kills some organism in the river. Another method of preventing potato blight is to breed potatoes that are resistant to blight. Resistance to potato blight is controlled by two alleles. Capital R, a dominant allele for having resistance to blight. Small r, a recessive allele for not having resistance to blight. A scientist crosses two potato plants. Each plant has the genotype, capital R and small r. So they are heterozygous. This particular potato will be resistant to potato blight. Allele present. Complete figure 9 to show the possible genotypes of the offspring produced. So the offspring produced will be capital R along with the combination of small r. So there will be a 25% chance of having a potato that may get potato blight. 25% or 0.25 chance of potato blight. Draw a ring around one of the homozygous genotypes in figure 9. When we are asked a question like this, the ring can be either around the homozygous recessive or the ring can be around homozygous dominant. What percentage of the offspring in figure 9 will be resistant to potato blight? So according to our calculation, only 25% had the chance of potato blight. The remainder 75% or 3 out of 4 had a chance of not having potato blight because of the resistant gene. So 75% will be our answer. Potatoes can also reproduce asexually. Potatoes from one plant can be planted in the ground to produce new potato plants. All the new plants from a parent plant that is resistant to blight will also be resistant to blight. Explain why. Using potatoes from one plant to produce new potato plants is a form of asexual reproduction. So there is no fusion of gametes and the offsprings are genetically identical to the parent plant. A student estimated the percentage cover of the buttercup plants in a field. The student used a quadrant. The quadrant was divided into 25 equal squares. Figure 10 shows the quadrant. We can see the metal wire within the quadrant. This is the method used. Place the quadrant on the ground. Record how many squares in the quadrant contain buttercup plants. Place the quadrate in a new position in the field. Record how many squares in the quadrate contain buttercup plants. Repeat steps 3 to 4. 3 and 4 on another 3 times. What method should the student have used for placing the quadrate? Place the quadrate where there are many buttercup plants. Place the quadrate only where there are no trees. Place the quadrate using random coordinates. Use the same person to place all the quadrates. In this process, because we have to use the method the student could use to place the quadrate, we want a random selection of the place where the quadrates are placed. So we can use random coordinates. The other processes are not correct because if we place the quadrate in the place where there are many buttercup plants, then it will be a bias. Place the quadrate only where there are no trees also will be a bias. Use the same person to place all the quadrate does not come relevant to the technique of placing the quadrate. Any person can place the quadrate as long as it is done randomly. The student calculated the percentage cover of buttercup plants for each quadrate. Table 1 shows the student's result. So we can see the quadrate number, the number of squares containing buttercup plants, 10, percentage cover of buttercup plants, 40. And then we went on, with all the 5 quadrates, the number of squares containing buttercup plants and percentage cover, done. Now the mean or the average for the percentage cover of buttercup plants are not calculated. So let's calculate that one. We have to add all of the numbers and divide it by the number of quadrate. So the average is 60. Table 1 shows the quadrate 1 and quadrate 5 each had a 40% cover of buttercup plants. Figure 11 shows the results for quadrate 1 and quadrate 5. Groups of buttercup plants in quadrate 1 and quadrate 5. The student's method of estimating the percentage cover of buttercup plants is not accurate. How does figure 11 show this? Because in this particular diagram, if we look into the percentage cover, for the quadrate 5, the percentage cover of 40% is nearly correct. However, for the quadrate 1, we can see percentage cover can be maximum up to 15% maybe or something like that. Okay, so let's see. Quadrate 1 has more groups of buttercups. Yes, it has more groups of buttercups, but that doesn't that doesn't tell why that it's not accurate. So the area of the buttercup plants in quadrate 5 is much larger. Yes, this is the main reason. Whereas the area of buttercups in quadrate 1 is much smaller. The student wanted to get a more valid estimate of the percentage cover of buttercup plants in the field. Suggest to improvement that to the method to make the results more valid. One of the ways to tackle this particular answer all the time would be to place many more quadrates. The more quadrates we place, the more accurate average we will get. And then the other improvement that we can do is that we can divide the quadrates into smaller squares so that we can get the perfect account of how many squares are basically having that particular buttercup plant. And then we can also estimate the actual percentage cover in the quadrate instead of just counting the squares, those that had buttercup, and only count the squares with at least 50% cover. Then it will be a proper estimation. Now, to get this answer correct, you only need 2 points. So think the point which is more suitable for you and always repeat that one. But my personal best or favorite is place as many quadrates as possible. Okay, and the second one is divide quadrates into more smaller squares. Give 3 environmental factors that would affect the growth of buttercup plants in the field. Environmental factors will include factors that can affect a particular plant growth. So the first few things that we can immediately think of is light source, because it is the source of the energy for photosynthesis, then water, then mineral ions. Other than that, temperature can be a big factor. Acidity or alkalinity of the soil, the pH of the soil can be a big factor. Presence of herbivorous animal grazing can be a big factor. Okay, and the use of weed killer could be a big factor as well within a particular field for the presence of buttercups. Now we only need 3 from all of the points that are given. So choose to write any 3 of the points to get your mark. Scientists are very concerned about the changes in concentration of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere. Figure 12 shows the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere between 1988 and 2014. We can see between 1988 and 2015, there is a general trend in increase in CO2 concentration. If we only follow the middle line, the general trend is to increase. Describe two patterns shown in figure 12. Use the data from figure 12 in your answer. So, in terms of description, first of all, we can talk about the common trend. From 1990s to 2015, the CO2 concentration on average increased. But each year, the CO2 concentration increased and then decreased. It could be because of summer and winter. Because during the summer, the CO2 concentration should decrease because more photosynthesis can take place. And during the winter, the CO2 concentration increases because photosynthesis usually doesn't take place during the winter months. So we will give the answer in this particular way. Overall, there is an increase in concentration of CO2. So the increase in concentration of CO2 is by 418 minus 360, which is around 58 arbitrary units. So the overall increase from 418 to 360, from 360 to 418. So the overall increase is 58 arbitrary units. However, there are peaks and troughs in each cycle in 1 year. So the difference between a peak and a trough. So let's see the difference. The trough here reads 362. And the peak we can see at 374. So the difference between peaks and trough is 12 arbitrary units. Give two human activities that affect the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. One of the reasons CO2 concentration can increase could be due to combustion or generally burning of woods and fossil fuels. The other reason could be deforestation. Since deforestation takes away the plant those that were photosynthesizing to remove carbon dioxide. The trend shown in figure 12 may continue for many years. Explain what effect the changing concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere could have on the living organism. This is a particular question where a level 2 answer would be necessary. A level 2 answer needs to be scientifically accurate and it has to be logically linked to form a clear account. So, first of all, if we talk about the changing concentration, which is naturally referring to higher concentration of CO2 because the trend in graph was increasing. Higher concentration of CO2 can cause global warming. Now, this will allow plants to photosynthesize faster because there is more carbon dioxide available and there is higher temperature available. So, certain parts of the earth where photosynthesis is not possible right now at the moment, photosynthesis will be possible there. Other than that, the temperature rise can cause changes in rainfall pattern and extreme weather conditions such as storms. And it may also lead to less rainfall or desertification in some places, whereas some places will just simply flood because of the heavy rainfall. This may lead to loss of habitat and also higher temperature may cause temperature to rise in the polar ice caps, which will increase the amount of ice cap melting and will cause flooding. Guys, in order to get this particular 4 marker, you do not have to write so many points. However, I would love to appreciate if you can go with this particular paragraphs. You can see there are a total of 4 paragraphs mentioned. Okay, so if you want to choose which paragraphs I would definitely prefer is the first one where I have several points, and then you can choose the last one. These 2 paragraphs are the must, and choose any one in between, and that can basically definitely give the full mark that you are looking for. The nucleus of a cell contains DNA. Name the structures inside the cell nucleus that contain DNA. So the structure that contains DNA within a particular cell is chromosome. In a typical time, it looks like this, but just right before cell division, it looks like this. So we will call it chromosomes. Figure 13 shows a part of DNA molecule. We can see the phosphate label. X is a sugar. This is a 5-carbon sugar, so it's called pentose sugar. The name for this particular sugar, because this is a DNA molecule, is deoxyribose. The A stands for adenine. This is the base, nitrogenous base. G stands for guanine. C stands for cytosine, and the T is thymine. As you can see from the diagram, A and T pairs together, whereas C and G also pairs together. This will always be the pair. Name part of the DNA molecule labeled X. So the answer will just be sugar. What type of substance are labeled ACGT? So we will call it nitrogenous base or simply base. The other answer you may write are nitrogenous base or the name of each of them. But if you get tempted to write the name, then you must write it in this particular format. You have to give the full name for adenine and cytosine and guanine and thymine to get the full marks. Figure 14 shows another section of a DNA molecule. We can see A and T coupling together and then followed by. Okay, so in this diagram, what we are looking at is that this particular DNA molecule is unwinding. Unwinding is done by breaking hydrogen bonds between the nucleotides. Four of the substances are named in question 8.3 and are not labeled in part Y of figure 14. Label each of these substances with the correct letters A, C, G, T. So from this diagram, because we know that cytosine is a complementary to guanine, so we'll pair it with C, and then A complementary to thymine, which is T. So that will be the repetition. What is happening to the DNA in part Z of figure 14? We can say this particular process is replication, because the replication is the process of copying DNA. Now, why the other processes are not correct? So let's see one by one. Fertilization is the process of fusion of gametes. Evolution is the process of evolving. So going from, changes that occur within a particular organism. So we can say this is a change in inherited characteristics. And the process of differentiation is to produce specialized cell. Now, this specialized cell will be produced from stem cell. That will be differentiation. A gene is the length of DNA. What type of substance does a gene code for? So a typical gene codes for a single polypeptide. Now, the other easy answer for us should be protein. Most human body cells contain 6 into 10 to the power of minus 12 grams of DNA. What mass of DNA will a human sperm cell contain? Because a typical body cell consists of 46 chromosomes, whereas a sperm cell, which is a sex cell, it consists of half the number of chromosomes. Thereby, it will contain half of it, so 3 times 10 to the power of minus 12 grams. What is the name of the type of cell division that produces sperm cell? Sperm cells are sex cells, so they are produced by meiotic division or meiosis. Let's see the other processes. Mitosis is the process of producing genetically identical cell. Well, we already talked about differentiation is the process of making specialized cell from stem cell. And binary fission is for bacteria. The bacteria's process of cell division is binary fission. Meiosis is the form of sexual reproduction, formation of gametes. A student investigated the effect of temperature on the decay of milk. Figure 15 shows the apparatus the student used. You can see a use of thermometer, a pH sensor, fresh milk, and pH meter. The computer provides us all of the information bundled together in the screen. This is the method that is used. Set up the apparatus as shown in figure 15 with the milk at 20 degrees Celsius. Record the pH over 5 days using the computer. Repeat another batch of fresh milk at 25 degrees Celsius. How could the student keep the milk at constant temperature for 5 days? The student can use a water bath which is at 20 degrees Celsius in an incubator, preferably to have it constantly at 20 degrees Celsius or constant temperature. Give one variable that the student should keep constant. Do not refer to temperature in your answer. The student must keep constant the volume of milk. The other points that we can write is type of milk. Table 2 shows the student's result for the milk at 20 degrees Celsius, starting pH 0.6.7 and ending pH 4.4. Complete figure 16, label the x-axis, use a suitable scale for the x-axis and plot the data from table 2. Draw a line of best fit. The x-axis is always our independent variable and y-axis is always the dependent variable. So let's see the scaling for the x-axis. So we have a total of 6 scale to put 5 days. So starting day is day 0 and then we can divide the boxes in such a way that our answer is within the particular boxes. At the same time, we have equally spaced numbers. So independent variable, here number of days. The data was plotted in question number 9.3 and was obtained at 20 degrees Celsius. Sketch a line on figure 16 to show the results you would expect at 25 degrees Celsius. Since 25 degrees Celsius is a higher temperature compared to that of 20 degrees Celsius, we can expect this acidity or the formation of this 4.4 pH much faster. So any line that goes below and goes to the same ending point of 4.4 just right before the original time would be correct. So label this one 25 degrees Celsius and label the other one 20 degrees Celsius, just so that it doesn't cause any confusion. Human body temperature is controlled within very narrow limits. Scientists investigated the effect of drinking ice cold water on internal body temperature, the rate of sweating. This is the method that the scientist has used. Sit a person inside a room kept at constant temperature of 25 degrees Celsius. Measure the person's internal body temperature near the brain. Measure the person's rate of sweating. After 20 minutes, give the person's 500 cm³ ice cold water to drink. Continue to measure the person's internal body temperature and sweating rate for a further of 50 minutes. Give the reason why the person should not move during the investigation. Movement generates heat, and obviously that heat will cause the particular person to sweat. So our answers can be written: movement would release extra heat, or movement would increase the body temperature, or the movement would increase sweating. Any one of the three should be correct. Figure 17 and figure 18 shows the scientist's results. We can see that the body temperature dips from 37.4 up until 36.8, the lowest point, and then the body temperature recovers back to 37.4 again. At 20 minutes, the person has drank the cold water. We can see the lowest temperature reached is at 34 minutes. In the second figure, 18, the rate of sweating in arbitrary units, we can see the rate of sweating, which was 3.7 arbitrary units. After drinking the ice cold water, it decreased to less than 1, 0.9. And it happened at 36 minutes. And then it recovered back to the original level back again. What is this person's normal internal body temperature? So the normal internal body temperature will be 37.4, read from the graph. The results show that when ice cold water was drunk, the temperature near the brain decreased. Explain why the temperature near the brain decreased. This question gains 2 marks, and the answer is a little bit tricky. So basically, drinking cold water cools down the stomach, and when the blood passes through that cold stomach, the blood then gets cold and then flows back into the brain. The cold blood goes back into the brain, which causes the brain's temperature to decrease. The thermoregulatory center in the brain responds to the decrease in temperature. How does the thermoregulatory center sends information to sweat glands in the skin? The thermoregulatory center in this case is hypothalamus, and thermoregulatory center can send the impulse back to the sweat glands, definitely by neurons. And the process of taking this information would be via nerve impulses. So the answer can be via nerves/neurons, or we can say via nerve impulses. The rate of sweating changes between 24 minutes and 36 minutes. Explain how this change helped to maintain the person's normal body temperature. We can see the rate of sweating decreased from 24 minutes to 36 minutes. It decreased. Decreased amount of sweating means person's body temperature will be lost less. Less heat will be lost from the person's body. And as a result, the person's body temperature will recoup back. During exercise, the skin appears red. What causes the skin to appear red? So the reddishness can come from more blood flowing near the surface of the skin. Blood vessels moving closer to the skin surface. Constriction of blood vessels in the skin. Constriction of blood vessels in the skin will cause less blood to flow near the surface of the skin. Decrease in heart rate will cause less blood to flow overall in the body. Dilation of blood vessels in the skin. This could be the biggest reason why blood flow will more flow near the surface of the skin. So between point number 1, point number 4, this is a tricky choice. However, blood vessels do not move closer to the surface of the skin. So the last answer is correct. Decay occurs in a compost heap. Figure 19 shows a compost heap. We can see thin layers of soil in between and layers of dead plant in between those layers of soil. Describe how microorganisms in layers of soil help to recycle chemicals in dead plant. How the chemicals are used again by living plants. This question is given in the exam in different formats. So in this case, because we are asked how microorganisms in layer soil help recycle the chemicals, we'll talk about the decomposition, how they digest the materials in the plant materials. And then we will have to talk about how these chemicals are used by living plants. So the remaining materials produced by the decomposition, which remains in that particular soil, how it is used by a living plant, we'll have to describe that too. So to get a level 2 answer, it has to be scientifically correct and logically linked. These two things we must always keep in our mind. So the answer can be written as follows. In microorganism, the digestion of the large molecules takes place by the help of enzymes. They do respiration, which produces carbon dioxide and also releases the minerals when they digest the nutrients, and they do not need the excess minerals from those plant material, such as nitrate and phosphate and magnesium are released into the soil. When a plant uses that soil, so in plants, first of all, we can talk about the CO2. The CO2 is taken in from the air by the leaves, by diffusion, by the stomata, and the CO2 is used in photosynthesis, which makes glucose. And plants also take the mineral ions, such as nitrate, phosphate, and magnesium, by their root by active transport, which is then used for making amino acids, protein, DNA, etc. Guys, to get a 6 marking points, you do not need to write all of them. Just make sure that whatever you wrote in microorganism point for example, respiration produces CO2, talk about the converse point in plants, and just also include in microorganism releasing mineral ions from the plant material, and then those same mineral ions are taken up by the plant, which then they use for making food substances like amino acids and protein. If you can do this much, you will definitely get your 6 mark. Guys, that's the end of this particular question paper. Thank you for watching this particular video. Guys, subscribe to the channel and let the channel grow, because question paper videos like this will be uploaded regularly. And if there is enough amount of subscribers, I will also try and upload, chapter-wise question paper video solving, and, chapter-wise notes, how to do them. All right. And chapter-wise, question paper solving would be my main focus on this particular channel. However, if the channel grows to the desired amount, then definitely we will also upload, chapter-wise revisions as well. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for watching the video. See you in the next video, guys. Bye-bye.